If you're fond of sand dunes and salty air, quaint little villages here and there, you're sure to fall in love with old Cape Cod.
Well, here we are again to another neighborhood training session. This week we're going to continue on with the far eastern section of Falmouth. Today we'll be focusing on Waquoit Village Center. This area here basically bordered in the area of Waquoit Highway, Carrot Sharp Road, Collins Way, Metoxic Road. There's a center of Waquoit, and it'll be a particular interest in difference in some of the other things that we've been doing is that this area here has a mix of commercial and residential in this area, and it is a village center, and it does lend itself to the vibrancy of Falmouth in its own particular way. So we'll focus on some of the hazards that are there, some of the roads that are in the area, and of course the response from the stations. I'm sure most everyone is familiar with this area town. It's roughly 2.5 to 3 miles away from Station 5, so it's not extremely a long distance response time, but it's a little longer than we see in some of the areas right around the station. So that's what we particular there. Just focusing quickly on some of the road networks that are in the area. And as you see that we have basically the yellow line is Waquoit Highway, which of course Waquoit Highway starts down at Childs River right by Edwards Boatyard and runs off into Mashpee, and the numbers increase as we head off into Mashpee. We also will see that actually I'll start down the East Falmouth end and just work our way up as we look at some of the roads in that area. Down here we have the Waquoit Bay Estuary Reserve, which there is a alarm system and alarm box connected to that. And the first road we come up to is Whistler's Way. Basically it's there we go. It runs down off of Waquoit Highway and down into its termination down on Waquoit Bay. And then we have, as we go up, we have this small little way here called Tecuma Way, which is just has a few houses on it down the end, but it is right across from this end of Barrows Road. Barrows Road actually begins well in Waquoit and ends over into Fresh Pond Road. But this is the essentially this is the dividing line here. Here we have the Childs River running up through here, and that's basically the dividing line between East Falmouth and Waquoit. And as we go up right in here, we split off into Parsons Lane, heading up by the Waquoit Congregational Church right up here in the parsonage. And we have Studley Street, which cuts through from Parsons to Waquoit Highway, right up and through here. And up here we have the, I'll just broaden it out here a little bit to show you where we're at here. We end up at the end of Parsons Lane. We abut right up to Bonnie Lane, and if you recall, there is a residential home for some challenged individuals on Bonnie Lane. I believe that, if I can remember correctly, it's one of these houses right up on here. It has a telephone alarm to it. Okay, so then we look at this area here. Here we get into Carriage Shop Road. Actually begins at this, the numbers of Carriage Shop Road, the low numbers begin here in Waquoit and end up all the way out to Sandwich Road. So the high numbers on Sandwich Road and the low numbers are here in Waquoit. This Valley Road is a single track dirt road that runs way back into these woodlands that you'll see way up in here. And as we've talked about before, these are all this is all that woodland that we've talked about, where we do have a wildland interface problem or issue to be aware of anyway. I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it's just something that we need to be aware of as we're building more and more into woods. And what Google map doesn't show here right at the moment, but we'll see on some of our other maps, is that there's been a road built right in here called Alton's Way, and it runs this whole tract of land right up in here. And then we also have, next to that, we have Stanhope running all the way down, basically straight down. Now Stanhope was supposed to be connected here. This is where we talked before with the Cranberry Run, and that this Rio Ana Road here is actually blocked off. So Stanhope has approximately 30 houses in here, and the Stanhope is all single-family homes, as is Bonnie Lane, and as is most of the residential roads off of Waquoit Highway and Carriage Shop are single-family homes, predominantly wood frame. I'd say almost exclusively wood frame. The only thing we will be talking about is at the end of Alton's Lane, not yet built, but in the process of being built, is 10 duplex condominiums right at the cul-de-sac. So we'll actually have a multi-family dwellings at the end of Alton's Lane in Waquoit. So we'll have to be aware of that. All right, and as we cross over into Waquoit Village, we'll see that I just want to spend a little bit of time here. We won't go into each of the individual buildings there in Waquoit Center, but as you see, there is quite a little commercial area here. This building here is going to be one of our target hazards for Waquoit. It's that Waquoit Feed and Grain. It does have a firebox on it, an alarm system, does not have a sprinkler system, so it's tied into the smoke detectors. And it's a wood frame building filled with anything that you'd find at a feed and grain store. There was fertilizer there, bird food, dog food, all kinds of lawn products. There's a hay van out in the back. Luckily, there is a hydrant right out front, and most of the electrical wires are just beside it. And right here is the Cumberland Farms gas station, Waquoit Cumberland Farms gas station. And that's going to be important for dispatchers as well as our responders, because there's also a Cumberland Farms gas station in East Falmouth. So we have to be able to distinguish between the East Falmouth Cumberland Farms and the Waquoit Cumberland Farms. Okay, and then also here we have the South Cape Motel, which we go to quite frequently for rescues. It's more of a lodging house than it is a motel. Most of the people in there are longer-term residents occupying a motel room. And then there's also an annex to the rear here. So we do have a multi-family or multi-life hazard situation here, two-story. The rest of these are all businesses, different. There's a Municus restaurant there. There's a car dealership. The other thing is that there is the Waquoit post office is right up in here. So we, do need to be aware that that is a village center. And luckily we do have, in this area here, we do have hydrants. Predominantly, we have hydrants throughout Waquoit Village. And so the next, right at that intersection where you have that blinking light there in Waquoit, we go down Metoxic Road, and we have the first road on the right is Cornell Way, and then there's supposed to be a road here, it's called Little Lane. I got to look a little further to see if there's actually house numbers off that, or are they numbered off of Waquoit. And so we run down Metoxic Road, and Metoxic runs all the way down to Metoxic Point, right down the end here. And right in this section, right up in here, the road actually, continues on in a pavement, but down here eventually turns to a dirt road down here, and it's more of a private road down at the end. We go down to the end here sometimes to the Grinnell Estate for a telephone alarm sometimes. Now, I spoke before about the area being predominantly hydrants. There is a 24-foot section here of Municus Road. This road here from Waquoit Highway all the way down to where it connects to Metoxic Road has no hydrants on it. So we're going to chalk that up onto our list of roads recently that we've mentioned, don't have the hydrants. And we talked before about the different spots in town that still don't have hydrants. So, and this is one of them. So what we're going to have to keep in mind is there is hydrants here, and there's a hydrant up in the Waquoit, and just about in the middle here is 1,200 feet. So dispatcher is going to have to give a heads up of whether it's down on McKinley Road, which is this road down here. Focus in here a little bit too much there. Okay. All right. Now here we have these areas here are one is McKinley and one is Crosby Lane, and we'll take a look at that as we come in. On our other maps they'll show us, but there is a few homes down there. So this is Crosby and this is McKinley, I believe. We'll take a look when we get there. But we're going to have to remember that you're going to grab from one end to the other. Okay? All right. So next we'll take a quick look at some of the structures that are in that area, and just to be familiar with them. First of all, we'll look at the Waquoit Congregational Church, which I'm sure you're all familiar with driving by. It's quite a landmark. It is a historical structure, so we do want to do what we can to save it. Obviously, we do what we can to save any structure, but special efforts here. It is an older structure. This is vinyl siding on the outside, and beyond that, I didn't see any other fire protection systems on the building. There was a parsonage on the back side of it, a whole separate building. So just something to be aware of. This building here is the South Cape Motel, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. We're looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, so probably 24 rooms front and back, and then also having the annex to the rear over here. And we'll go here, of course, the Waquoit Cumberland Farms. And the Waquoit feed and grain store. As you see, here's the box right here, and all the basically the wires that we would have as a hazard are over here. The rest of the building is open. The hydrant is right out in front, so we should be able to pick that up if we have anything. Down at this side B, the Bravo side here, there is a large garage door that opens up into the this whole area in here of the store, and they do have a forklift inside of there to move things around. So for ventilation purposes and so forth, there is an opening there. It is an older wood frame building, commercial building, and so we do have to remember that we do have hazards in there. There's a lot of high piled storage in there, so if we get something going in there, we have to pay particular attention to our safety. Next we have, just to show some of the other particular hazards that we have, Waquoit has quite a few antique or historical homes, and this house here obviously was built in 1840, so we should anticipate that we have a lot of old-time construction techniques. I would imagine this house is probably got tongue and groove, not tongue and groove, not tongue and groove. Mortise and tenon, probably. Construction, probably balloon frame. So just something to keep in mind with these particular structures. Plus, they may not be designed as we're used to with the ranches and capes that we see around. A lot of the rooms and bedrooms and so forth may be smaller and may have these nooks and crannies. The stairways to the second floor are going to probably be a lot steeper. So, different things to keep in mind when we're dealing with these structures here. All right, this is the map of that Alton's Way coming off a carriage shop. And I just showed you this here just to show that's a quick layout. A lot of times in Falmouth they do not allow long dead-end roads without a secondary means of egress from the development. This development here was able to go through. I think it is one of the 40B developments in Falmouth, and I'm not 100% sure. But the lots are, they're like half-acre lots. They're mostly capes and ranches within there. But the particular attention is what is to be built at the very end here is 10 duplex units that are labeled as condominiums. So we're going to have multi-family dwellings pretty close together. So I'm probably talking only, looking at it here, probably only 10 feet apart. And I would say probably not sprinklered. I'm not 100% sure, but if I had to guess, I'd probably say they're not sprinklered. They're going to be pretty close together. Not yet knowing how their construction is going to be. I'm curious whether it's going to be a modular type construction setup. But just something for us to be aware of. This blue here in the center is not a pool or anything like that. They're just labeling their sewage treatment system that they're going to have in the middle of this cul-de-sac. The other thing that will be they will have to pay attention here is that this open space back here is 450,000 square feet. Now you're talking that's probably almost guess probably 10 acres probably. Yeah. So 8 to 10 acres, that's always going to be open space. So it will always be wildland. And Old Valley Road comes up this side, and behind here is all woodland as well. So we do have to keep in our wildland interface, and we'll always have to be paying attention to that. This is one of the homes that's newly built in Alton's Way. Now, I'll mention Alton's and Bonnie Lane and Stanhope all have underground utilities, so we can get right in there with the stick and get it up, and they do have hydrants in there, but these are all newly built, all level lots. They do drop off a little bit in the back, but predominantly level lots. Okay. We'll go to this one here, which is just the Waquoit Post Office. Small structure, government property, historical in its value and nature to the village of Waquoit. So it's one of our target hazards for that area. And next up, I just had a couple of pictures of some of the older homes that are in the area. This one here in particular is off of Matoxic Road, and then right across, directly across from this house is another house that actually is not in as good a condition. It's a really old Cape-style house that's hidden behind some hedges and so forth, and it didn't look like quite as good a shape as this one here. But the other thing I saw with this picture here is there seems to be some sort of like an oil drum, like a 275-gallon oil drum laying on a side here, on the side of the house. And there's this doorway out the side, so I don't know if somebody removed it from the house and just shoved it out there, or whether it's not an oil drum, but I don't know. Anyway, that's just a, imagine this house here is probably balloon frame, probably been remodeled several times, so we get into something like this with a fire, and we've got our hands full. And this building, this house here, was probably a pretty good size house at the juncture of Moonakis and Matoxic Road, on that far southern end. It just looked a good size, square footage that I thought would be interesting for us to see. And last, this property here is a town-owned conservation land, and this is on Moonakis Road. It's one of the 300 committee properties, and basically this road here just goes on for probably only a quarter mile down into the Moonakis River, and there's a bog over to on the left-hand side is an old abandoned bog. The only reason I mention it is there is a gate down at the very end down here, and it's locked. There's no Knox box on it, but it looks like we could cut the bolt very easily if we needed to get down in there to do a brush fire or to do a rescue or whatever. Just something that we keep in mind. All right. Now, this basically is just the town, map. Okay, we don't need to go on that one too much. Okay, here's the one that I wanted to bring out here. Actually, I don't, is just to look and see that we don't, that area there that we were talking about, that we don't have any hydrants at, and is this area in here of Moonakis, this whole section here. So, as you see, we got water running, all the way down here, all Matoxic, and all the way down. But in this area here, Crosby, McKinley, and Moonakis, there's no hydrants. So we're probably going to get to around this point here, this midpoint here, which is just where we saw that conservation property is actually right in here. So probably get to that point, and that's going to be our 1,200 foot mark. So the dispatchers, you see something like this, take a measurement on your dispatch map from the nearest hydrant. If you're dispatching to a fire up here, give the responding engine a heads up as to approximately how much of a lay that they're going to have, or whether they're going to run out of hose, whether they should grab these hydrants up here, or whether they should grab this one down here or this one over here. Obviously, we come around here and go up here, we're going to eat up hose real quick, and from here we're going to have to go by the fire, turn around, and come back. So it does logistically make it an issue. And then we also got to come down into McKinley and get to one of these houses down here. So, and these roads here are kind of small. All right, so we'll just look briefly, we'll just review some of the what we've already spoken about. That predominantly we're talking about a residential. In this area here, we do have a village in there, so we have residential and commercial, predominantly all wood frame structures. I looked around quite a bit, and I didn't see anything much beyond wood frame. We do have historical and antique structures in the area. The two duplex condos at the end of Alton's Lane, approximately 300 or so residents. Plus, we do have the business area, the full, as I mentioned, the full hydrants, with the exception of the Municus Road area. Okay, and these are, we already gone through these here, the roads that are in the area. Waquoit Highway runs through the beginning of Barrows Road. That will take them away, Whistler's Way, Parsons Lane, Studley, and Collins Road. Parsons and Studley are right around the Waquoit Church. Collins cuts in on the left, Waquoit Highway, and cuts up over to Carrot Shop. And then off of Carrot Shop, we have Stanhope, Alton's, and Bonnie Lane, and then the little Old Valley Road, and then the backside of Parsons Lane comes over there. The Toxic Road, which is the one right at the flashing light, right at the intersection with Waquoit Highway, Metoxic. Cornell is the first road on the right. Now, Cornell doesn't have any hydrants on it. It does have town water to the houses. It doesn't have any hydrants, but it's also a very short road. So we should be able to pick up the hydrant at the end of Cornell, and here we are right here in Cornell, and go right in, and we'd have a pretty short lay, probably probably only 400 feet or so. So that's not too much of a worry there. And Little Lane, as I mentioned, that was this little road here. They've been saying this is something Little Lane. I'm looking at the numbers here, and they seem to run sequential: 16, 17, 36, 35, 41, and then we have 19, 20, 16. And this is about that area I showed you where they had that old house with the 3 flags on the front that I said was the oil drum, looked like it was on the side. That is right here, and that older old real Cape house is on this side. So we're talking about probably just a little teeny little cart path between that runs up here. All right, so that's all we're talking about with that. And Metoxic Point coming down, and Municus, these are the ones with no water. Let's see, what I hit a. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to mention, just briefly, the same situation exists in this area as we had over on the Ostrom Road, Meadow Neck Road areas, we do have a lot of houses that are on long driveways. And we'll see this down here, that a lot of these houses, they want to get a waterfront house down here, so they run in with a very long driveway. So, we could get a call for a house down here, for a house fire or for a rescue call, and we're looking for a house number or we're looking for a particular house, and we got something like this here. We're talking, probably a 400-foot driveway by the time we're done here. Yeah, that's 700 feet right there, just eating up to get to that house. So we got to just, these are all, as you see, these are all bunched together. So we've got that same issue over here. And the response times, basically Station 5 is not too bad, talking about 2.5, 6 miles. I did this to a house on Stanhope Road, just to give us a general response to that area. So I think it was 50 Stanhope Road that I used. So that's roughly, how far we are from Station 5, Station 1, 6.5 miles, roughly 10 minutes. So same situation exists. Station 5 people, you're going to get there, and you're going to have 5 minutes or so before your next unit does. Maybe headquarters will get a jump on the 911 call, and maybe they'll get out the door a little quicker, is because they got the jump on the call. But still, you're going to be, have a few minutes before your next arriving unit comes. So, everybody needs to have a heads up. The third engine, talking 7.5 miles away. How long does it take to get to East Falmouth from Waquoit, all the back roads? 12, 15 minutes. There's your third engine coming. And if you don't have that, and you're going to get a third engine from somewhere else, Station 3 is 8 miles away, and Station 2 is 8.7. So, if for some reason East Falmouth isn't covered, and headquarters is first due, well, your second and third engines are going to be quite a ways away. Now, Mashpee's 3.3 miles away, which is not too bad. But they've got their own runs to be dealing with. So, and we talk again about the historical, Waquoit Congregational Church, Waquoit Post Office, antique and historical homes. Businesses, the target hazards in that area, although there are a lot of other businesses there. The Municus Cafe, there's like a auto sales place, there's looks like a pool sales place, there's a couple of hairdressing places, different things like that. But our target hazards, Waquoit Feed and Grain is probably our biggest one there. The Waquoit Cumberland Farms, South Cape Motel. Multifamily condos, the end of Alton's Way, probably by the end of this year. Would have a wildland interface issue, mostly on the north side of Carrot Shop Road. So something to keep that, and the no hydrants in Municus, McKinley, and Crosby. Just like we have up on Courier Road, and what was the other road up here? Oh boy, I'm drawing a blank here. Courier Road and Cape Woods Drive area, where Captain Small lives, we run into it, and also North Waquoit Road. Okay, that's our other ones that we're getting in. So we're narrowing in. We got a better deal with the hydrants in the town of Falmouth, but we still have to keep in mind there's a few places that don't have it. And that wraps up our presentation on Waquoit Village. And next time around, we'll be talking more about the last little section of Waquoit, and we'll be working on the Sea Pit Road area down here, this little neck of land down here, quite a few houses, but we'll work on that. So, we've covered most of Waquoit, and today we'll work on that Waquoit Village. So thank you very much. I hope this has been helpful and will help us be safer in our practices, but also be able to respond more efficiently when we get called out. All right. Thank you, and stay safe.